John was working in his science lab, got blasted by gamma rays. Now he's Smash Trivia John, always smashing. He's friends with Ruffalo, crushing on Maslany, and also Sydney Sweeney. John's here saying, hello my gamma friends, welcome to the show, the Gamma Analysis Podcast.
Smash.
Hello, my Gamma friends. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Smash Trivia John. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram by searching Smash Trivia. I'll be the one with the big old green head in the profile picture. This is the Gamma Analysis. Basically, I'm going to review everything Hulk, all the movies, TV shows, and I also do random other geeky films. Let's hope you enjoy. Smash Trivia presents the Gamma Analysis. I want to ask everyone listening, if you could please do something for me, please share the hell out of this podcast for all your friends. If you don't, Hulk will be angry. Now let's smash right into this episode. Today's episode is a review of Darkman with Kevin the Time Geek. How are you doing, Kevin?
Doing all right. I'm really jazzed up for this. I always like to talk about Darkman with people because I think it's one of the more underappreciated films in Sam Raimi's oeuvre, as it were. So
makes sense.
I'm really jazzed up.
Yeah,
I own the Shout Factory Blu-ray, so.
This is so for watching this for doing this review. This was the first time I watched it. I had a lot of fun on with it. It was cool seeing this earlier in his career version of Liam Neeson.
Oh yeah, and very young Liam Neeson in this movie. In fact, he wasn't even the first person considered for the role of the Darkman. Actually, I mean, there were several people considered. There was Gary Oldman, Bill Paxton, so many names. But I guess Liam Neeson just had the right energy that Raimi was going for. So.
What's really interesting me with this is with Liam Neeson in this is I feel like this was at a time when he hadn't developed his acting personality yet, so he was able to be more free with it. That was really cool.
Well, according to some of the behind-the-scenes interviews I watched on the Blu-ray, after watching the movie before we were recording this, he talked a bit about how it was still early in his career, and he actually had a lot of fun, and Raimi kind of gave him rein to kind of cut loose a bit, which was nice.
Particularly one big thing I noticed is I feel like nowadays when you see Liam Neeson films, he has a very heavy accent. Versus he doesn't have nearly as much. He doesn't have nearly as much of this, and I feel like that sign where his Irish accent, maybe in recent times, because he realized his voice is iconic. I'm guessing he's hammed it up in recent years versus back then he didn't.
Well, from what I understand, his character was meant to be American, so he was kind of trying to put on an American voice. For the character,
he definitely doesn't sound American, but okay.
I mean, he does a little bit. It kind of comes and goes, but especially post transformation. But I kind of hand wave it as him kind of just, he's kind of slowly losing his marbles.
Yeah,
that's how I justify it in my head. Although there are 2 direct-to-video sequels that were made to this movie in the '90s too that I've seen those several times as well, but Neeson unfortunately didn't come back to play them. But the person they cast to play them was Arnav Boslu, who you might know as Imhotep from the Stephen Sommers Mummy duology.
So, I feel like the sequels been made now, he absolutely would have come back.
Oh, he probably would have done, because this is the first instance of Lee Neeson before he became known for being this brutal, thuggish kind of anti-hero type, and even though arguably Darkman's a little more operatic and heightened and over the top. I mean,
Oh yeah.
Raimi loves to go over the top, and I always respect him for that.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. I think Liam Neeson was
Hmm.
cast
He acquits
perfectly in
himself well
this.
here. Yeah.
I what I love about Liam Neeson that is I think just in general he's an over the top actor, and I love that about him. He is like, to me, the definition of fake serious. He's very
Yeah.
over the top serious so that you will laugh at him, and I
I kind
love
of I
that.
kind of see him as more kind of like fearless, if that makes any sense. Where he's not afraid to just
Mhm.
push things. And where depending on the character he's playing. Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah,
Excuse me.
like I most of everything I've seen from him is like his recent like action movies, and it's
Mhm.
always side where
So
he
some of his
hands it
early
up
work,
so much.
yeah, some of his early work is really good, including this one. I mean, one of my favorite movies he did is a movie called Rob Roy, which takes place in like Scotland and stuff like that, even though he's Irish.
Makes
But
sense.
and it's got like a who's who of like British and Scottish and Irish character actors in it that are, and it's even though I'm of Irish descent on my dad's side, so I kind of like that stuff because I kind of almost I know this sounds narcissistic, but I feel almost like a kinship with that in a way.
Absolutely understandable.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I kind of gel with that stuff, whereas I can see how other people might not necessarily feel that way. So
I can understand that. Yeah,
yeah.
I think he's an act. He always brings something fun to whatever he's gonna be in.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's even said he'd glad to work with Sam Raimi again if the situation allowed, but that hasn't happened yet. So
Mhm.
we'll see.
Yeah. Have you seen the trailer for the Naked Gun reboot that he's
Oh
starring
yeah, I
in?
just saw that the other day. I'm actually kind of
It
excited
looks
for that
oh
because
yeah, it looks like a
I
lot of
grew up
fun.
with the old Naked Gun movies and with Leslie Nielsen and just I'm looking forward to seeing what Neeson brings to that because that just looks like a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen the older
They're comedy
ones,
gold, man. They are comedy gold.
but just knowing it's Liam Neeson and it's Seth
Yeah.
MacFarlane, and I'm like,
Yeah.
it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna
Yeah.
be
I
so
mean, I
much
mean,
fun.
I think the only person who could really feasibly like lean into that kind of style of the old Naked Gun movies, the original filmmakers, I can't remember their names offhand, but is probably Seth MacFarlane. 'Cause
Mhm.
he leans into that absurdity, and
Oh yeah.
and Neeson probably would be able to
And
commit to it and just play it totally straight, but it's hilarious as hell because he's playing it totally straight.
yeah,
You know?
and like and the thing that I always love about Seth MacFarlane and in his films and his shows is
Hmm.
he's never phoning it in. He's everything he
He,
does
he he
us,
commits.
there is a passion there, and that makes it so much funnier, or
Yeah,
everything he does.
he has a sincere commitment to the bit. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
which is more than can be said for most comedians I've seen
yeah.
nowadays who just
Oh,
kind of say shit in order to get a rise out of people or
yeah,
whatever. I mean, you're supposed to get a rise out of people. You're a comedian, but my point is, you're saying shit to get a rise out of the wrong targets, in my
mhm.
opinion. You got to aim at the right targets. Piss
Yeah,
off the people. Punch up, don't punch down. That's my
yeah,
feeling about
exactly.
comedy.
I agree. Yeah. The yeah, this film though I really enjoyed it.
I'm
I
glad you
think
did.
there are some I think there are some lines of dialogue, particularly near the beginning, that felt a little weird. But
I mean,
other than
Raimi
that, I
likes
think it
his
was
snappy, zingy
yeah,
dialogue in his movies, so
yeah.
I'm used to it.
I really enjoyed it. I love how over the top it is.
Yeah,
I like that. I think things being over the top should be considered a staple of superhero films, and it shouldn't be
Yeah,
something
I
that
mean,
people
I
think of
mean,
it as a problem.
even when Raimi went on to direct Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, it was still pretty over the top, but
Oh yeah.
there was also a sincerity to it, which was really nice and which I really liked. I mean, at least I saw it in there. I know some people probably didn't, but that's their problem.
Yeah.
Um, I don't want to rebuke people who didn't like that movie. I mean, I can understand why they didn't like it,
Mhm.
but at the same time, I just I enjoyed it for what it was,
Yeah.
and plus Sam is one of those directors who really he he is really willing to try to let the actors take chances,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, I saw numerous interviews with Benedict Cumberbatch around the time Multiverse of Madness was coming out, and he said that Sam was probably one of the most fearless directors he'd ever worked with, and also one of the most fun. So,
Mhm.
fearless and fun. That's a good way to describe
All right.
Sam, I'd say. He even has this great in fact, one of my favorite things he's ever said is this. He said this on this one podcast I listened to, where he was being interviewed, where the host asked him like, "How is it that you're able to just balance the comedy and the horror so well?" And he answered with, "Well, setting up for a scare and setting up for a joke, setting up for a laugh require the same kind of, or the same, pretty much the same thing. They just require a different payoff." And thinking that way, he can kind of play with expectations a bit, where it seems like he's setting
Mhm.
up for a joke, and then there's a scare, to kind of put you off
Makes
balance.
sense.
And then the reverse too, where it seems like he's setting up for a little joke, or no, setting up for a little scare, and it's just a little gag,
Mhm.
and he does that to kind of, I mean, he still does does do the same straight through line of like set up payoff for joke and scare, but sometimes he likes to just offset it just to keep people on
Yeah.
their toes.
Makes
I
sense.
remember when I first showed a friend of mine Evil Dead 2, it was his first time seeing it, and I hadn't seen it in a while, and and he hadn't seen anything Evil Dead, whereas me, I that was one of my favorite things growing up because of one of my brothers. But you know, but I decided to show him Evil Dead 2 because it was more funny, and the first one is a more straight horror movie,
Mhm.
just to kind of give him an idea of what the series really is about.
Mhm.
And after we were done, I asked him, "So what did you think?" He said, "Sometimes I didn't know whether I should laugh or scream in terror." And I was like, "That's Sam Raimi for you."
I think that's a bit of a funny response, just because I'm like, none of Sam Raimi's films are really that scary. That I'm
I
like,
mean, the
that I feel
first
like
Evil
that
Dead can be pretty terrifying, actually,
maybe a
because it
little
is a
bit.
straight horror movie. Yeah, there's still some fun to be had in there,
But
but there's some stuff in there that is kind of creepy. There's some
like,
stuff that's
but I mean, like, there are absolutely films where they really are trying to terrify you, like
yeah,
Long Legs last year, and
true.
and it just I just funny to me to think with Sam Raimi, because like that's just never how I felt like
That's fair.
seeing him. He seems
Well,
more interested in the story than actually really scaring you.
I guess that's a fair point. Yeah. And Raimi does really want to make sure people enjoy the story as it unfolds, and
Yeah.
even if it's even if it's something like a well-worn trope or something like that, and you kind of can see how it's paying off, it's worth it because of how he portrays the
Mm,
journey, if that makes any
yeah.
sense.
Oh, so yeah. I love the concept for this film. Like
Yeah,
I always enjoy this idea of characters who cannot feel pain, and
yeah,
particularly the fact that even though they can't feel pain, they still can get injured.
yeah, and not
I
only that,
love
but
that.
but I think this is one of the few instances where he can't feel pain, but his whole body is trying to compensate for that, and that's why his emotions are
Hmm.
so heightened and everything.
Oh yeah,
And it's like, and it also kind of gives a pseudo medical explanation for why he can't feel anything.
yeah.
It was part of a medical procedure he underwent when he got burned so badly. And in fact, a lot of that medical stuff that was written into the movie was contributed by Sam Raimi's older brother Ivan, who is actual medical doctor. He actually has a practice here in Michigan where I live.
Nice.
Not near where I live, but he does have a practice here in Michigan. In addition to, so he is an actual medical doctor in addition to doing screenwriting work with Sam on occasion in certain instances. So if you're ever in a Sam Raimi movie and you hear kind of pseudo medical jargon, look for the name Ivan Reitman, not Ivan Reitman, Ivan Raimi in
That's
the
a Ghostbuster
credits. Yeah, that's the Ghostbuster guy.
guy.
I'm a Ghostbuster fan too, but
Yeah.
anyway, Ivan Raimi in the credits, and you'll see that's where
That makes
you'll
sense.
know that's where that comes from because Ivan, Sam's brother Ivan, is an actual medical doctor. Now some of that medical jargon probably wouldn't fly in terms of like actual medical science as it
Yeah.
is in the real world, but you buy, but you
It's
buy. It sounds realistic enough that in this
mhm.
comic booky world that you
Oh
kind of
yeah,
buy it, you know?
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's also an action movie that just came out a few weeks ago. Called
hmm
Novocaine, and that also
I've heard good
has
things about that one.
it's
One of my
so
friends
much
was
fun.
recommending it to me the other day. I'm like, I'll check it out sometime.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun.
Okay.
It's a similar concept. He feels no pain, though for him, it's not because of some accident he was in. It's because it's simply just because
Yeah.
when he was born he had a genetic thing that made it so he's never been able to feel pain, and it has made him scared to experience anything. Like he doesn't even eat solid food because of
Yeesh. I'd be scared too if I was in his
it.
shoes.
Because he's scared of swallowing his tongue.
I mean, technically swallowing your tongue is impossible, but
Yeah.
according to a lot of medical people I've talked to, but what do
Mm-hmm.
I know?
But it was that was a very fun film as well. I love though as well the idea of this is he's creating a mask out of artificial skin for himself to
Well,
wear.
he's a scientist who is developing an
Oh
artificial
yeah.
a polymer that would function like an artificial skin to help burn victims, and he ended up becoming a burn victim.
Yeah.
So,
I
yeah.
do find it interesting though um how it took so much longer for him to make the mask of himself than it took for him to make all of the other masks that he wears in the film.
Well, that's because, he was taking, if you see, he was kind of taking pictures of all the whole faces of the characters. So maybe a lot of that time was spent, reconstructing like part of his mouth and the eyes and stuff that was on the burnt picture and stuff. So a lot of that time was, in fact, I saw how many hours took him, like over 500 or something. I
Yeah.
did the math on that. It's almost a month it takes for that thing to reconstruct. With today's
Yeah,
technology, it'd probably go a little quicker. But
probably.
I mean, movie first came out in the right at the beginning of the 1990s when I was a kid. So I didn't see this movie till I was after high school. So,
Mhm.
but I still enjoyed it for what it was. So
Oh yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
I liked the villain as well, or at
Robert
least
Durant. Yeah,
yeah.
Larry Drake.
I
He
think it's
understood the assignment.
interesting. It's interesting to be. I don't know whether you're supposed to consider him the main villain or the actual guy that he fights in the main battle, the
It's
last battle of
Yeah,
like.
some of the people who watched the first movie probably had that same issue because probably because when they went to do the direct-to-video sequels, they brought back Durant actually for the second one. So and had Larry Drake reprise the role. So because he proved to be the more popular of the two. In fact, there's even a series of comic books with Darkman in them where he crosses over with the Evil Dead franchise. So Darkman and Ash Williams team up,
Oh.
and and uh, Durant actually gets resurrected as a deadite at one point, along with some of his minions. And he actually flat out admits that his old boss wasn't worth bringing back to life because apparently he was the least popular of the two. So
Um, which but I think that's what's really like confusing about it is like which one of them is the boss? Are they
I think that
partners or
the guy who he fights at the very end, who he drops off the building, was the main villain, and Durant was just the heavy, basically,
I guess so,
the second in
it's just
command. Although he does become the main villain of the second film, so
that's just that's interesting to me. I'm like because
it makes
the
it does.
rest of the film really feels like Durant is the big boss,
Yeah, yeah.
this mob
Larry Jake
family
certainly
or
plays it
whatever.
like that, and that's probably why. It's probably because of that performance why he was brought back to play the
Mm-hmm.
main villain of the first of the two direct-to-video sequels. So yeah,
I was thinking about what I was watching.
yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong about this being work or not, but
Hmm.
I think when the helicopter scene were happening, if I were Durant, what I would have told my the person flying the helicopter is fly us up very high, and then just send him into the cops' helicopter blades.
Yeah, well,
That might I feel like that might work. I
yeah,
like
well, it,
I'm debating in my head, and this isn't me saying this is like a criticism of the film.
oh, I
I'm
know.
just thinking. I'm just something I was thinking about watching it. It's something I was debating myself in my head. I'm like, on one hand, I feel like that might work. On the other hand, and maybe it wouldn't cut the rope. It would just get it stuck in there and send send Durant's helicopter crashing down. I don't know which would actually happen.
It would have made them probably just crash into one another. You
Mhm.
don't know.
Yeah,
So in a way,
it's
kind of Durant
interesting.
probably just decided to expedite things by using that rocket-propelled grenade on the police chopper.
I also there's a place where I was thinking myself I would do a different decision when um and the girlfriend and is at the his secret hideout out at
Hmm.
least the first time just so quickly she leaves when he doesn't appear to her or if I were her I would be like I'm
I
going
mean,
to stay here all day until you come out.
yeah, well,
You're
yeah.
not going to get away from me. We're having this conversation.
Yeah, I know, but the narrative has to
No,
progress.
I am. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not trying to criticize the film. It's just
yeah.
like that's just like I think
I
about.
mean, I will say Frances McDormand really acquitted herself well as
Yeah.
Julie. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
I've been
everybody
a
had
fan of
great
hers for
acting
years.
in this.
She's a regular of the Coen brothers, who are also friends with Sam Raimi. So
Mhm.
that's probably one of the reasons why she was in this. In fact, from what I heard, she and Liam Neeson actually really got along really well on the set because they both do a lot of theater work
Oh,
as
cool.
actors. So they kind of went. So sometimes before they shot their scenes together, they kind of rewrote their own dialogue so it would kind of make it a little more romantic between them, And apparently it met Raimi's approval, because he let it let it show up, happen on camera. So yeah.
One thing that I love that we see in this is that
Hmm.
you don't really get to see much in films these days, just because of the fact that it's not good effects but it's something
Yeah.
that's just always funny to me. It's like when we have the scene at the carnival when he's trying to get the pink ink
Yeah.
elephant and all
Yeah. Take the fucking elephant.
the
Yeah.
effects that they do around his face when he gets angry.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, that little
I
acid trip thing going on.
Yeah,
I
like
love that bit.
I love stuff like that.
That's
Saddens me
something
you can't
Raimi
really
loves to do
do.
now and then, just little bits to make you go,
Yeah,
"Whoa, Jesus!"
it saddens me that you can't really do stuff like that anymore because those effects are so bad. So
I know.
they
It's
well,
part of the
in
charm,
any
though.
film today, if something like that appeared in it, it would take you out of it because as it's
Raimi
so
is one of the few
dated.
filmmakers who makes that kind of Clash work, in my opinion, because he just plays it so well.
But I think that just adds to the over the top charm that this has, and I love that.
Raimi's knack for just having going over the top just makes the whole thing work for me. In fact, I heard that like I actually heard that like in the at the near end of production before they were going to put the movie out to theaters and everything, the Universal had locked down the edit of the movie and some of the stuff that had been trimmed out were some of the more over the top stuff, and Raimi, one of his producers, and another editor basically broke into the editing office at the last minute, to sprinkle some more of that over the top stuff into the final edit of the movie. At the last moment, before it was shipped out to theaters, which you probably wouldn't be able to get away with nowadays. But and in fact, the head of Universal at that time later said that he while he was upset at the time that Raimi and company did that, nowadays he considers it a rather ballsy move.
Yeah,
like almost like Ocean's 11 shit, you know. So the fact that Raimi believed so much in his vision that he wanted, basically broke into the editing office last minute. It's crazy making to think about, but the fact that he had the temerity to do that, respect.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like I said, you wouldn't be able to get away with that nowadays.
Another thing,
especially on a Marvel movie.
Yeah. Another thing, this is something that's again in all of Raimi's movies, or at least all of the ones that are partially horror. Or I love the makeup effects.
The makeup effects are great for Darkman. I think if they were to make that movie today, the makeup effects would probably they'd be if they were in the hands of a really good filmmaker, it'd be like a mix of practical and CG to really make it work. Now, granted, they went completely digital for Two-Face's face in The Dark Knight, and it still worked. But I still like a mix of practical and CG, for that kind of thing. I mean, it worked for Doc Ock's tentacles in Spider-Man 2. So
I think the most recent kind of effect that looks similar to Darkman is Walton Goggins in the what show was that?
Fallout? The Fallout show?
Fallout.
I've been hearing good things about that show. I've been wanting to watch it, even though I haven't played the games. So
I have not played the games either, but I like the show. What made me interested in the show was both. I like post-apocalyptic stuff, and I like retro-futuristic stuff as well. And
we've got a retro-futuristic superhero movie coming out soon, the new Fantastic Four movie. I'm excited for that. Yeah. Fantastic Four. Sorry, I just love that bit in the music. Anyway. But yeah,
I love that, which is not surprising because he cameos in basically all of Sam Raimi's films. But I love that they had the final mask that I see wears Bruce Campbell.
Well, that was also a nod to the fact that originally Raimi wanted Bruce Campbell to play Darkman, and in a way he kind of does in the movie, because that bit at the beginning of the movie, like after he's kind of broken out of the hospital and he's found the cloak and everything, and he's wrapped himself up in it, and he sees Julie on the street, and he's like, that was Bruce Campbell providing that little bit of dialogue, so in a way he played Darkman, but and even at the end, but apparently Universal wanted more of a name actor, which is why they were trying to choose either Gary Oldman or Bill Paxton or someone else, and before settling on Liam Neeson. Apparently Liam Neeson was enough of a name to Universal. They were like, okay, go for it.
So I feel like before this film he had already done Schindler's List, so he was already, I think, decently big actor.
Yeah. I've only seen Schindler's List once, and that's all I
want to see. I haven't seen it, but I know it's a pretty big film. So
it's a heavy movie. You might want to watch something funny after watching it, because it is a very heavy movie. I've only seen it once, and that's enough for me.
I don't like watching many heavy movies, so I probably won't end up watching it. I
will say I'm a very empathetic person for the most part, and that took a toll on my empathy. That movie. but I still wanted to watch it just because of the historical significance of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I,
And
I think the thing is, to me,
yeah,
no, one, I just don't love like super serious, heavy films, but also I think with films like Schindler's List or
fair enough.
Oppenheimer, I have a little bit of an ick because I'm like, this
That's
is
fair
a
enough.
real life thing that you're just making entertainment out of. This real life tragedy, you're making entertainment out of it.
Well,
It's
history,
weird.
yeah. I mean, I
It,
can get with that, but I have a big fascination with history, and I always feel like
I
I
understand
always
that.
want to see like how movies or portray the history of our world,
Oh yeah,
even if it's through the particular prism of a certain filmmaker like Spielberg or
mhm.
Nolan.
Like I'm not trying to I say I have anything against anybody who watches films like
Yeah,
that. They just as personally to me give a little bit of an ick because it's
they're
a
a
weird
little,
idea
it's a bit much. Yeah,
of
and
making
that's fine. We
entertainment
all have our
out of
tastes.
this real life tragedies.
Yeah. I mean, I can
Oh,
understand why you'd feel that way, but sometimes it's important to still understand that these tragedies happened so we don't repeat them,
oh yeah.
frankly. That's my feeling why these films are important. These
Hmm.
historical films are important is so we don't repeat those tragedies,
Yeah.
and
And I
especially
definitely
with what's going
understand
on
that.
nowadays. But
I definitely
like
understand
we
that.
won't get into that because
Oh,
I don't want to risk any chuds in your comments being like, "Oh, this guy is,"
I highly doubt there will be just
Okay.
because I'm very small podcast, so probably not
I'm
even
not
gonna
as
see it.
very well known as a content creator either, so thank
So
heavens
yeah,
for that.
yeah. So I'm looking right now at the trivia section for this film on IMDb.
Hmm.
Apparently, Raimi originally wanted this to be either a The Shadow or a Batman movie.
Well,
He-
he wanted to make a movie based off of Batman or The Shadow, but he couldn't get the rights. So
yeah,
he
so
basically
change it.
he had written this one short story when he was younger, and he basically kind of spun that off into what became the story for this movie. So he kind of self-adapted his own little
Yeah.
thing that he had written years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So
You know,
so yeah. And he also
you
kind
know,
of and also Darkman just kind of takes some cues from other comic book characters like the Byrne stuff, Two
mhm.
Face, to some extent. There's this one character who's kind of like a master of disguise kind of thing called the Unknown Soldier. Apparently, was an partial inspiration for Darkman as well. I've never heard of this character personally, even though I'm a big Marvel DC fan. But if you're a hardcore DC fan, you know who I'm talking about. So don't at me, folks, if you do know. But I mean, I consider myself a big comic book geek, but even I have my blind spots. Okay, so
Obviously, you're not gonna know every obscure character
oh
out
God,
there.
no, I couldn't
There's
even point out
so
all
many.
the obscure characters the Justice League Unlimited put in so, back in the day. So
Oh yeah.
shows you what kind of geek am I? You know,
You know,
I'm being silly, but
Sam Raimi having like wanted to make a Batman film and ending up casting Liam Neeson in this reminds me of how Liam Neeson is honestly someone who I think could do really well as an old man Batman. I think he would
maybe.
be he just fits the vibe that I think
Hmm.
is what Batman should be, which I like I said, to me Liam Neeson feels like someone who is this very over the top
Yeah,
kind of fake serious, which is kind
yeah,
of what I think of Batman as.
yeah. It's yeah. I mean, whenever I think of like old man Batman stuff, I can't help but be reminded of like when I was younger, when Batman and Robin was performing in theaters. The fourth Schumacher Burton
Mm-hmm.
movie, was in theaters, and how the news broke that Schumacher wanted to make a sequel about an older, more grizzled Batman, and how and how this one radio host I was listening to at the time kind of joked like, "Well, who are they going to get to play the role? Clint Eastwood." So, and I'm like, I don't know. Now,
Yeah,
granted,
I don't.
so I don't know. The only thing I knew Clint Eastwood for at that time was just the whole like, "Do you feel lucky?" That kind of thing.
I like. I mean, like, I don't love Clint Eastwood,
Me neither.
but I could kind of see that,
Yeah,
for I feel like with him it works best as like just like like with Batman Beyond, of him just being like
yeah,
in the shadows, just as a retired person, not
yeah. Like, yeah,
actually out
yeah,
fighting crime.
yeah. Batman Beyond was a great show.
Oh yeah,
Rest in peace, Kevin Conroy. You were awesome.
oh yeah,
I actually got to meet
and
him once. He was so sweet.
rest in peace, Val Kilmer.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Kilmer passed recently too. Yeah, rest in peace, dude.
Just
Shut
like
up.
this week. Uh,
Yeah. I was actually in a Discord call with some friends when the news broke, and one of them
uh,
started sniffling, and I'm like, what's the matter, dude? And he's like, I just found out Val Kilmer's dead. And I'm like, oh fuck.
uh,
Can we swear on this, by the way? I don't know.
yeah, you're fine.
Okay.
Don't worry.
I didn't want. I've been
No,
trying to keep my
no
language
worries.
neutral in case you get demonetized or something.
No worries.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
My podcast is set to mature, so no worries.
Sweet, sweet, sweet.
So apparently, the Coen Brothers actually appeared in the
Oh yeah,
film,
yeah.
which is
I
cool.
think yeah. Well, they're friends with Sam Raimi, so they do a lot of back and forth. I think Raimi kind of cameoed in one of their movies, so this was them
Yeah.
returning the favor.
So let's see what else is there in these trivia things about the film that I want to bring up.
Hmm.
Oh, apparently, Colin and Farrell's fell off of it off the 30-story steel girder set in the middle of the fight scene and broke
Ooh,
his femur.
ouch! I know how
That's gotta
hard it is to break
suck.
someone's femur because I have an older brother who broke his femur when he was in high school.
Mhm.
So it's a hard bone to break, but when it does, ow!
I don't think that this is meant to be the same universe as the same Raimi Spider-Man films,
Oh, absolutely not. It's definitely not meant to be.
um John Landis has a small role in this as a bearded and masked physician with
Yeah,
large
he's one of the
glasses.
medical doctors in the scene where that British doctor is kind of explaining all the stuff,
And,
what the medical procedure did to him.
and apparently he reprises the same role in Spider-Man 2 during the hospital scene with Doc Ock waking up.
I think that was meant to just be an inside joke on Raimi's part,
Mm-hmm.
frankly, because apparently he and Landis were friends
Yeah.
before they kind of fell out or something. So, but yeah, although I do love that. That's one of my favorite scenes in Spider-Man 2 is the horror scene with the
Oh yeah.
tentacles.
It's a
But
really great
I saw
scene.
that I saw that on the big screen in theaters when I was going to see the movie with my one of my brothers at the time, and I was just like, "Oh, this is awesome!" And apparently, it was the scene they shared at Comic-Con when they announced that Alfred Molina was playing Doc Ock. So at
Oh, that's
San Diego
cool.
Comic-Con at the time. So that's kind of cool.
Oh,
So
let's
that
see.
was that was the scene they previewed for the fans.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could have been there for that, but I was in high school at the
Oh
time, so I
yeah.
wasn't able to.
Oh yeah. Just let's
Yeah.
see what else is there. So
Uh,
Bruce Campbell's character is credited as Final Shimp, which is apparently a reference to Shimp Howard,
uh,
who was the doubled by who was frequently doubled by lookalikes in the Three Stooges. Is
yeah,
so.
yeah. Raimi is a big Stooges fan, and basically, like they would refer to like stand-ins that are meant to take the place of certain actors as shemps it was
Mhm.
his special term for that. The term kind of originated on when he was shooting Evil Dead with Bruce. So, and it just kind of carries over here.
You know,
Not that so to some extent. So
it's not it makes me think about it, is like, what would be really fun is a Three Stooges horror film with Sam Raimi directing.
That'd
That
be
would be
fun. I
a
mean,
lot of
if they
fun.
were to cast the actors who played the Three Stooges in that Farrelly Brothers Three
Yeah.
Stooges movie in those parts, that'd be and
Oh yeah.
make it really creepy but also really funny. I'd be on board with that.
I think what would be really fun is like there is some kind of like a villain that they're a villain that they are running away from. They're scared of and but they keep but as they keep like falling over themselves and making mistakes because they're the Three Stooges.
Of course.
I think what would be really funny is if that villain would just keep getting so confused. He's like, what the hell is going on? I'm trying to scare you guys. Why are you guys falling over yourselves?
Yeah, I know.
I think that would be great. Yeah. I'm trying to think what else is there to talk about this film. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about this?
I mean, if you're looking to get the movie on physical media, Shout Factory has a really solid Blu-ray for it. That's really nice. It has a lot of bonus content in it. Like one of my favorite bits of trivia that I learned from the bonus content actually was when they were designing the mask for Darkman, they weren't really sure how they were going to really convey that look of him looking kind of bony but still have the flesh on him and stuff. And then Tony Gardner, the person who was the head of the department that created that look, that thing, he happened to glance over and see the poster for Evil Dead 2, which has the skull face with the eyeball,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's when the idea formed in his head, and the rest is history. So,
Oh, cool.
so a little cross pollination between Sam Raimi stuff there, if you
Nice.
think about it. And and also Shout Factory also has Blu-rays of the direct-to-video sequels, and they're pretty good too. They don't have quite as much bonus content. I mean, one of the second movie has like the TV edit as a bonus feature, which is kind of cool.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that honestly I think is really cool
which
just
is
because is
well, it's in standard definition and not in high
well I
definition,
understand that,
but
but
it's
I
still
think
pretty
that's
cool.
just really cool because like
Yeah,
so many TV edits of films are kind of lost media now
you're not wrong.
because most TV networks don't do them anymore, and
Yeah.
I think I personally really find TV edits to be such a fun thing just because
Yeah, with the
they always
obviously dubbed
have
in shit over the what's
they always
obviously a
have
swear.
the most ridiculous is replacements for the swear words, and
Yeah,
I kind of love that, and it saddens me that a lot of them there's no way to watch them anymore.
yeah. I think my favorite cases of TV edits, though, are when filmmakers actually intentionally to shoot different takes for the TV edit to put in the movie. Like instead of for example, Ghostbusters. Instead of being of Walter Peck being referred to as Dickless, he's called Wally Wick, for instance. You know. And when the mayor's like, "Is this true?" and Venkman says, "This is yes, it's true. This man has no dick." Instead, he says, "Yes, it's true. This man is some kind of rodent. I don't know which." You know, and I use that as an example because there's this one Blu-ray box set of the Ghostbusters movies from the first one to Ghostbusters Afterlife that's in the shape of a ghost trap that actually lights up when you open it. I know because I own this thing, and because and it actually has the TV edits of the first two movies on
That's
as
cool.
a bonus content. So, which
Oh
is
yeah.
kind of cool. So, you're right. I would love to see more TV edits of movies preserved in media, even
Oh
if
yeah.
it's just like in a collector's sense,
Yeah.
because it's a
It's
fascinating
weird
thing.
to me that that the TV edits seem to be such a massively guarded secret within Hollywood or
I
something
know.
because
It's sad.
you can hey, they never I feel like that sign that they should absolutely be like whenever the DVD of signing or VHS back in the day or now Blu-ray a
Hmm.
just release that as well either as a bonus feature or as its own copy for people who want that. Yeah,
Hmm.
but instead they're like they only will give it to these TV networks, and then there'll be no other way you can watch it. And I'm like,
Yeah,
Why?
sadly.
That I
Yeah,
feel like you'll
sadly.
make. I feel like you would make like a decent bit of profit just releasing it as something that people can
Yeah,
buy.
yeah.
They're abs and
They are
either.
curiosities, that's for sure. I mean, I remember watching TV edits of all kinds of like films that I was probably too young for.
Oh yeah.
I mean, in fact, how I got into Evil Dead actually at a young age was my oldest brother showing me a double bill of the TV edits of Army of Darkness, the third Evil Dead movie, and then the original Tremors. So,
Nice.
and I wouldn't have probably gotten into either franchise had I not seen those, even though I've now seen the more adult versions, and I prefer
Oh,
those
oh
now that
yeah.
I'm older.
I like
But it, you know,
I like the adult versions too. I just
yeah,
love how ridiculous the TV versions are.
if yeah, because of just especially when someone like is saying like son of a bitch, son of a bitch, and then it's like instead of son of a bitch, it's clearly this bad dub like son of a gun, that kind of thing.
Oh
That
yeah. It's
it's just totally not the original actor's
oh
voice, and
yeah.
you're just like, the fuck happened there?
I don't remember what I don't remember what it was, but I'm pretty sure that or there were really good or really funny ones for Yippee Ki motherfucker
Yeah, yeah,
and
yep, and Die Hard, yep,
get these motherfucking snakes off this motherfucking plane.
yep, yep.
I remember there were really funny ones for those. I don't remember what they
Yeah.
were, but I remember they were really funny. It's just like I want I want these versions of things to be something that we can still access.
Yeah, because they're just, I mean, they're horrible bits of censorship, but they're also just incredibly fun,
Oh yeah.
Think of the children, you know, but children really want to watch these, I mean, granted, I did, but that's neither here nor there. I mean,
Yeah.
my two older brothers showed me all kinds of stuff that my parents probably would have been like, "Why'd you show him that?" Of course, granted, this past Christmas we just showed my then 9-year-old nephew the first Gremlins movie on streaming. So, and he enjoyed it. He thought it was, and it was like not the TV edit version. It was the actual full-on Gremlins,
Mhm.
everything, you know, and everything. And we're going to show him Gremlins 2 eventually. We just haven't gotten around to it yet. But I'm looking forward to seeing how he reacts to how crazy the second movie gets because that movie is nuts
Yeah,
and has a very young
absolutely.
Christopher Lee in it.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Well, no, that's really everything I have to say for this episode of my podcast.
yep.
Are there any final words you'd like to say?
Can I do a little self promotion, or
Yeah,
is that a lot?
absolutely.
Well, if anyone wants to check out my YouTube stuff, youtube.com/ KevinTheTimeGeek86. I do gaming content mostly. I haven't really done any like full on walkthroughs lately, but I do try to put up like a first impressions video of a random game for my Steam back catalog, now every Saturday and they go up. I try to put the record in and put them out and schedule them in advance, but the time they go up on Saturday is about like 12 noon, so midday, just you can check that out. And I've done
Nice.
Let's Plays under a whole different name on that same channel, but I still consider it good content if you want to check it out. I've done stuff like Zelda Link to the Past. I've done um I was in the middle of a Pokemon Yellow playthrough, which I'm gonna try to finish up one of these days. And so as some indie games like Shovel Knight and stuff like that. It's just they're fun little games, and it's like a Let's Play thing basically, so so if you want to check that out, go ahead, folks.
Yeah, hell yeah. Everyone check
I don't get
out
a lot of viewers, but
Kevin's
that's fine. I just
YouTube. That's all right, man. I
do
understand the
it for fun.
struggle.
Yeah. And also, and for those of you listening who are in Michigan, I'll actually be at Motor City Comic Con in May, not as a guest, but as just as a regular fan, just going around stuff. Keep an eye out for me. I'll be in like one of my cosplay outfits, probably the 10th Doctor Who, in that long brown coat and everything. So, you can come up and say hi if you want.
Nice.
I'm easy. I'm not shy. Hell, if you want a picture of me, I'm cool with that too. I'm, like I said, easy guy. So.
Oh. All right. Well, everyone, on as well, thank you for listening to this. And if you like this game analysis, please give a five-star review on Apple Podcasts or a 5-star rating on Spotify. I'd love to hear your thoughts and episodes. Please let me know. If you'd like to listen more from me, please subscribe. Many more game analysis from me coming, so keep on the lookout. This again is your host, Master John, signing off.